Welcome to the second episode of the podcast. I'm here with Charlie Minecraft Man.
Please give me a different introduction. By the way, my real name is Liam. It's not Charlie.
Whoa.
That's just, yeah.
I'm here with Charlie not Minecraft Man, Mr. Liam. How are you feeling?
How am I feeling? Oh, so it's the feelings that matter now. Okay. Well, I'm currently feeling, um, like I'm on a podcast.
Thanks for the insight.
Look, you can't put feelings into words, okay? Like, by definition, you can You know what? We save this for later when we get into philosophy.
Oh boy, I can't wait for that.
Yeah, you can't. You know we will.
Probably. That's when I just shut up because philosophy majors SMH.
I'm not a philosophy. Okay, you know what? Look, psychology. You can't just say that as a psychology major because the
Hey,
words are
I'm
so
not
similar you
majoring in.
can't even tell them apart
I'm
half the
not
time.
majoring in psychology.
What are you majoring in then?
Nothing yet. I'm just taking the
Nothing yet?
classes.
Oh,
I'm I'm not actually taking full classes because it's kind of like an off year, or sorry, a gap year. But I'm just
mm-hmm.
getting some credits in.
Cool. I'm actually semi-planning on taking one of those, but not for getting credits in. That's what I'm trying to do now in these last few years of high school.
Oh, okay.
Because for those listening on the podcast, if you weren't aware, we are two high school students. So any credibility you think we have, you can chuck that out the window right now.
No, we're two high school students. I'm college now, cause I'm old.
Oh, really? Well, if you're taking a gap year, then it doesn't really count. You don't get to claim that you're at college
I'm
if you're not
still
taking
in
college
college.
classes. But you're taking high school classes.
No, I'm taking college classes.
Okay, so then we're both two college students, practically speaking.
Okay.
Because, that's so much better.
Congratulations on graduating.
Thank you. Thank you. Haven't actually graduated yet. That's why I said practically, not technically.
Talk about school though. What was it like, or I should say, what is it like when somebody asks you what grade you're in?
Well, because of homeschool, I always have to convert that into like years of age.
Mm.
But because people's birthdays are at different times, that's not always the easiest task.
Yeah.
So a lot of times I'm just left kind of looking like an idiot when people ask me what grade I'm in. But I've learned in like the last 6 months, basically, it's like learning how to tell time.
Yeah.
I've just learned how to tell what grade I'm in. So
honestly, I never knew what to say because when I was in middle school, I was taking college classes for high school credits. And then in high school, I was still taking college classes for
That's the most mixed up sentence I've ever heard. When I was in middle school, I was taking college classes so I could get credits for high school.
It's true, though.
I know it's true.
I was doing middle school,
just
high
put the
school,
words
and
on paper
college.
And stare at them.
It's such a weird thing to say and think about.
I mean, so is homeschool in general.
Yeah.
Really.
I rarely ever said an actual grade. I just took the painful route and explained it, kind of.
Okay. It's word for word what I did. Yeah. You always end up with like the adults then just sort of staring at you, like slowly comprehending. And you're left in this situation where it's like, why did I even answer this question? Because I could have just deflected it somehow. I could have said, anyway, so my favorite class is, and they'd probably just bite into it. So
then you'll have the people who don't think homeschooling is like a valid thing to do.
Yeah,
they're like, oh, so you just don't go to school.
Run into those people. I don't think I've ever had a conversation with someone who legitimately made fun of me because I was homeschooled, except in like lighthearted ways, you know?
Yeah. I mean, it's rare, but it does happen
Has it ever happened to you?
a couple times.
Recount your experiences, Pescado.
Don't call me Pescado.
If you're gonna call me Charlie Minecraft Man, I get licensed to call you just about whatever I want.
Oh, okay, that's fair enough. Hey, at least you didn't get Leon's introduction.
What did he do for him? I mean, he's logged off right now, but look at his profile picture. You know what? Don't look at it. It's like an SCP.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah. Okay. Back on topic.
School. Yeah. Did you ever have a job, or I keep I keep thinking you've already graduated. Do you have a
I
job
haven't
while in school?
graduated. Yeah, I do. This summer, I am a youth camp counselor, the YMCA. It's a very prestigious position.
Whoa.
Yeah, I know, right?
Eh,
But I'd honestly much prefer working there to like Chick-fil-A. Okay,
Yeah,
Chick-fil-A
like
is a bad example because if anybody's
Chick
going to work for a restaurant, everybody wants to work for Chick-fil-A because Chick-fil-A
Yeah,
is
like
pretty
a
amazing.
normal fast food
But
place is gonna suck.
yeah, yeah. So
I wanted
it
to
actually takes like, go ahead.
I wanted to work at Publix.
Hmm.
Actually, I don't know if you have Publix is where you live.
We do.
Okay. Are they on like every corner like they are here in Florida?
No, I've just heard of them pretty much.
I wanted to work at Publix because there's one literally 2 blocks away that I walk to sometimes. And it's like such a great work environment. And they're understanding with a lot of different things. So I applied there and I already figured I wasn't gonna get a call back, but I never got a call back, so I'm just not gonna work until I figure out my schedule with college.
You like turned in your resume and everything.
Yeah. They
Yeah,
had everything is online now, which I don't like because I'd rather go in for an interview in person.
yeah.
But I had
With
to
me, they just required a Zoom interview,
oh,
and it
okay.
was kind of after I, from my experience and from what I've been told, interviews nowadays are kind of like this final just
Yeah, it's
hoop to
the
jump
final
through
thing. They'll call you in.
after they're pretty confident they're going to hire you, but they're not just the deciding factor or even really important. They're kind of for records
Yeah,
for the company.
because everything's online. You just click through some things and submit it.
Hmm.
So I did that. I put in my application online, and I had a bunch of just weird questions. And after that, you got sent to this like exam thing to
Captcha.
not.
Guys, he failed the captcha.
I'm a
The real
robot
reason
now,
he can't work at
unfortunate.
Publix.
It was to show how you would react to certain customer interactions, and it was like a 20-minute test. I was kind of weird.
Oh, yeah, I have those for this other um there's a gym that I often go to that I've been volunteering at, and because I'm friends with one of the coaches there, he wants me to like step in for him on paternity leave.
Right.
So I'm having to do like another onboarding process there, and it's complete chump change. It's not worth the drive. It's a 45-minute drive. It's not worth my time at all, but
Ouch.
I like what they do at the gym. It's like a parkour and free running gym, like a
Oh.
movement gym,
Oh yeah, I've wanted to go to
not
one of
like a
those.
weightlifting gym. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so because I enjoy doing that kind of stuff and because I'm pretty good friends with this guy, I'd actually be really glad to teach in his place. And but because I'm now being onboarded as this paid, remember I have to go through all this training of like first aid and safety and what I'm going to do if I'm at the front desk, which I never will be. and all this stuff, and there are similar scenarios which are oddly specific that require these responses based on dress codes and things like that.
Yeah, it's kind of weird.
So, but recently he told me, he's like, "Oh, by the way, I just want to make sure you're actually clocking in for that training time because you should definitely be clocking in for that." And I'm like, you guys can't afford to pay me for my training time. You're a tiny business.
Oh man, one of the reasons why I wanted to get a job really is just the money, so I can go out and
Mm-hmm.
just buy stuff honestly, or save up for a car because I can drive, but it's not like I have my own car to just go somewhere.
For me, it's mostly experience. Like, I'm really earning basically nothing at all
Right.
at my. It's like an 8.50 an hour
Oh, okay.
job, and so I can have like an 11.5 hour day, which I don't most of the time. But and it's like, okay, cool, that was an $80 day, I guess.
Right.
So it's I would definitely wouldn't say that money's one of the primary reasons, which is kind
Yeah.
of weird to think about because I think most of the time adolescents are pressured into getting a job because of the money.
Yeah,
But
definitely are.
most minimum wage jobs just don't pay you enough to live by.
That's why
And
it's
I don't
minimum
even want
wage
to
though.
exactly. I mean, I don't even want to start a political thing about why it is that way and why it might not even be good for minimum
Either
wage to be any
either
higher.
side of the political thing is just dumb to get into because I don't think causes
Yes,
arguments.
exactly.
But
But
it's more for experience.
the fact is, these jobs that are under the $10 an hour range don't give you enough to live on.
Yeah.
Like, unless you're really just really roughing it. And some people do that, and I'm not entirely sure. I think they have like multiple jobs. I think that's how they pretty much get a living off
Oh
there.
yeah, I've got a a friend who had 4 jobs for a couple years. He ended up being able to
Well,
buy a house because of it. Like
just diligent savings.
I don't know how that man did it, but he was definitely overworked.
Yeah, there is a psychological and a lifestyle strain if you go into it too much.
Yeah.
Like, I just think life in general nowadays is so overwhelming compared to how much teenagers and like young men are being equipped to deal with the world.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Like, I'm pretty fortunate. I have parents who care and parents who like help me with my resume. But like, you're just kind of tossed out into this chaotic sea, and it will kind of just society will just kind of wash you over and just throw you down into the fast food checkout worker side of things. And it's you can have talented people doing that because they don't have experience, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
And also maybe even just because they don't. It's a difficult thing, I think, to know or to think, to really believe that you should be at a high paying job and to have to take kind of a blue collar, low paying job. And there's like a pride element there
Yeah.
that can kind of be self destructive if you let it be that way. Like, you just become the guy in the corner in the fast food restaurant that nobody talks to because your head's so high in the clouds thinking you should be like designing airplanes, right?
Right. It's also college degrees because even someone with years of experience, if they don't have a degree, they're not going to get hired. And it's kind of dumb, honestly.
Mm-hmm. I think with the colleges, it's so difficult to find a non-biased one.
Yeah.
Everything is so political when it comes to universities, I think. Because the fact is, the teachers and the founders and like the faculty and the PR people of every college organization has a certain belief set that they are trying to push onto the next generation. And for the most part, it's a very liberal and self-centered one, I think.
It would definitely be hard, but I don't. This probably isn't an original thought, but I don't think
None of us are
schools.
thinking original thoughts here. We can chuck that idea out the window.
Free will is an illusion.
Plato and Aristotle have been here before without knowing it.
No, but schools shouldn't be political at all. They should
I
be
don't
there
think
to
it's
teach you the information, but
they should. I'm not they might not even be trying to be. It's just an effect that happens whether we like it or not.
yeah, that's true.
Like political not even in the sense of government, just political in the sense of distribution of power and discussion of ideas.
Yeah. One thing about schools though is I don't know about the rest of the US, but where I am, some schools stopped teaching cursive like 10, maybe 8 to 10 years ago, and they've slowly started teaching less and less kind of life skills
Definitely.
and more just like here's a book, memorize it.
Well, and just regarding books, because while I'm at my summer youth camp, there is a it's like a scholarship sort of thing where families who are too poor to have any normal summer camp experience kind of
Right.
get a free ride in. And so there's an education element. So for part of the time, I'm like helping um, kids listen to teachers and do homework and stuff.
Okay.
And you would be surprised how old they can get and have very little ability in basic reading, writing, or math because the school system is just, it just kind of doesn't care. There isn't enough making sure each child is engaged, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Unless you're in a private school, you can't really do anything about that.
hmm Yeah,
Or like we are homeschooled, where your parents can make sure you're understanding before you move on.
exactly. And I mean, there are even there are so many levels to everything. Like, there are shades of gray here, pardon the term, because um, you can have homeschoolers who have parents who don't really pay attention, and you can have kids who go to school and their parents like quiz them when they get home. Asian parents. Um, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. Like my parents they're really awesome about school. That when I was younger, I actually started a year late because of like sicknesses and stuff. And then they got me up to speed with everything and I was like on time or up to par with all the stuff. And then I got really sick for a year and I missed almost the entire school year. And then they got me back up to the right level and even ahead a little bit.
That's really cool.
But then also with public schools, some teachers are just incredible and they'll make time for each
Incredibly
student.
helpful. Yeah, I agree. Like,
It's just give and take with public and homeschool and private school. That's why tutors are so good. Only problem is they cost a lot of money.
hmm
So talking about the job thing again, since they started upping the minimum wage, one of my friends used to work at a Walmart as a cart pusher, and Walmart, by the way, is a terrible work environment.
Well, terrible store environment, if you ask me. But
Work
yeah,
and store
carry on.
environment. I don't know. I don't know how Walmart is still up,
Because it's a
honestly.
meme at this point. I don't know.
But they were gonna have. He works part time, by the way, just so you know.
Me
They were
too.
gonna have him work 9 days in a row, 1 day break, and then 3 or 4 more days. So he went in and said, I can't do this. I'm working part time, and you're going to have me work a full time job plus overtime.
Hmm.
And they wouldn't change his schedule, so he had to quit. Um, because of the minimum wage increasing, he was getting paid $11 an hour, and he made like 400 something dollars from his like 1 week there.
Hmm.
Which is a crazy amount
It
considering,
is. Over here, minimum wage is 7.50.
yeah, that's the normal minimum wage.
What state? Florida?
Florida, yeah. Some places are paying 13, some places are paying 11, which is an insane minimum wage.
It is an insane minimum wage.
If they want to increase the minimum wage, I think in no way, shape, or form it should go up to 15.
I agree.
That's making more than a lot of people do after 10 promotions in other jobs.
And here's the problem I have with with 75% of the legislations pushed through by American politicians. There's are all these things drafting money, promising money, giving money, but everybody seems to ignore the fact that that money has to come from somewhere.
Exactly. And inflation's
Like
a terrible thing.
if you give everybody money and then you like raise their taxes a bit, nothing has changed except you've created this like little pseudo system where people are like happy with you, but you haven't made the country any better. You've just wasted time.
Honestly, you
And I think
probably made
that's
it
what.
worse in doing that because of inflation. And you've seen it in places like Japan, Venezuela. What's that other one?
Hmm.
Brazil, I think. Oh, Cuba. Well, that's not really inflation as much as something else. But it's crazy now. Honestly, getting a job, a part time, a minimum wage job right now is gonna pay a lot better before inflation fully starts to kick in. Get all your
Hmm.
stuff now. It's happened with gas prices.
Oh yeah, bro. My state got hit hard by the gas. North Carolina.
Right.
We were
What's it
we
up to
were
right now?
lying. Um, it's normalized now, but when there was
Okay.
that cyber attack,
Right. Yeah,
we
everything
were
just went
like
crazy.
we had lines going like 3 times around the gas station.
It's like it's stupid honestly because you don't need to be that afraid of something. A cyber
Yeah, there
attack
was a
sounds
bunch of
scary, but it's
panic
not that
buying.
bad.
There were a lot of people just bringing 10 of those red gas cartons in their trunk and just filling them up.
Did you see those pictures of people filling bags of gas and putting into their
No, I
car?
haven't. And
You haven't?
I don't even want to think about that. I haven't. That's
Oh
so
man,
dumb.
a couple cars actually exploded from doing that.
Dude,
It's dumb.
I think in every way possible, society and the world as shaped by the humanities is just going to shit.
Yeah, that's true.
It's like the only way to survive is if you have a hope that's not based on circumstances.
Yeah,
You have to have something outside that you trust in more than anything. And that's how you survive. What's the complete cataclysms that are just shaking the world, both literally and metaphorically.
I see we've gotten to the philosophy.
I don't think we're at philosophy yet. I think
Almost. Almost.
we're just like stirring our mugs and looking out at the reeking farm fields while bombs are falling, you know.
That's
We're not
true.
quite.
Almost there.
I would say we're just observing, but that's what philosophy is. So yeah, maybe we've gotten to philosophy, but I want to steer us there gently.
Now screw that. Just grab the wheel and drift.
Cool. All right. What do you think happens when you die?
It depends on what religion you look into.
All right. What do you look into?
Personally, I'm a Christian, so I know, I believe in heaven and hell. But I also believe there are like subdivisions, sub factions of Christianity, because some
Oh
churches
well,
are
there's no
just,
doubt there's that. There are like 40,000
oh yeah,
denominations
it's
of Christianity.
so crazy because you go to some churches and they're like hellfire if you don't believe in the same way I think, you're gonna burn in hell forever. And then some of them are really feel good and they're like, oh, as long as you come to church and pray to God, you'll be okay. Doesn't matter what you do in the week.
Why are you a Christian?
Why am I Christian?
Yeah, why? I mean, if
Um,
that's not too personal a question.
no, it's okay. First it was because that's how I was raised, and then as my life went on, it was personal circumstances that led me to become stronger in my personal faith.
Hmm.
I also have to say
What?
I'm neither part of the hellfire or feel good
Yeah, yeah,
subdivision.
yeah.
There are certain stances I will be firm in, but it's
Such
not like
as?
I'm gonna walk around telling you if you don't believe in me, you're going to hell, so you better come with me or whatever.
Hmm.
Because some people do that, and it's crazy, honestly.
Yeah, they just end up leading people in away from Christ.
Yeah, a lot of people will look into those like the feel good churches, or depending on where they are, the hellfire, which are like everywhere. If you're in I can't remember where it is, but there's some places where those are like on every corner, and they'll get really turned away because there's so many rules and restrictions. They don't feel like it's a welcoming place. But there's a, I think it's First Baptist. That's like there are a lot of First Baptist churches.
I don't know what the denominational names mean, really. Like,
That's fine. But
no, no, I have the general, I have the general idea.
no, yeah, I know.
Um,
But First Baptist
I just
is,
mean that there are so many. Like, you go pot, you like I drive past signs that say, and I'll just be upfront. I'm a follower of Christ too, so I was actually really glad to hear that because I kind of wanted to steer the conversation in this direction anyway. But you drive by like a sign, Church of God, with like this with this flame on it, and then
yeah.
you're like First Pentecostal Church,
Oh
like
yeah.
St. John's Church, and you're like you're just going past like they're all clustered together that so that you have to choose one or the other each Sunday.
Yeah, they are.
It's
It's kind of weird.
very territorial and
Kind of
like
aggressive.
kind of pride based. Yeah.
One of the classes I took my second to last year of high school was the studying world religions.
Hmm.
It was really cool because it ended up being a class full of Christians, um, like the same as I am,
Hmm.
but it wasn't like
And
biased.
I too.
It wasn't biased. So we had all different information. We had really cool information on everything, and my
Hmm.
favorite to look at ended up being Shinto, which is a Japan religion.
Hmm.
But it's
Based on
also,
spirits, right?
yeah, the history is really really weird. I can find the book and tell you about it eventually.
Hmm.
But it's some of them are really weird because what is it? Buddhism? There are billions of gods. One for like every single thing you can think of.
Yeah. Do you remember when, like, in the New Testament, Paul goes to the here I'll just the like Areopagites or something, and they have like all these different gods because they're scared that there is one out there that they won't worship properly,
Yeah.
and they'll there's even this altar to the unknown god, which he opens his mouth and starts preaching about. But like there is a real sense in which people are led by their own fears to just kind of worship something out of terror of what might happen to them if they don't.
Yeah.
And I think the God that is taught in the Bible and by Jesus Christ when he lived makes it clear that's not what he is looking for.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
that's not what he enjoys. Um, so I think that's actually one of the ways the enemy leads people away from eternal life.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I've been wanting to talk about this for a long time, but I saw
Really?
this.
Because I have been too. You would not believe. Anyway,
No, this specific video. I feel like you're making fun of me. No.
no, I'm not funny. No, I'm
I'm
okay.
crying now. Take it back. No.
You're the anime person in your Discord Nitro banner.
um so I saw this video a long time ago. It was crap, can't remember. By an atheist about what would happen if there was a Jesus Christ or a God. And it's
Okay.
so weird.
Yeah, send it to me. Let's watch it.
I can't. I don't know. It was years ago. I don't
Oh,
think I could
okay.
find it.
Yeah.
I mean, I could look. I'll try that after. But it
Uh-huh.
was basically all three people get like teleported to purgatory, whatever you want to call it, where God is standing, and two people bow to him. You know, a Christian and a Jew, I think. And then there's the atheist just standing there because you know, whatever. Oh, look, I'm badass. I didn't believe in you, and now you're here, so
Is
I'm
this
just
an
gonna stand.
animation?
Yes. And so God says to the two people, "Why are you bowing to me?" or something. And they're like, "We followed you for our entire lives. We've been good children of yours." And God said something like, "I've seen what's in your Bibles. Why would you worship someone who sends people to burn in hell or whatever?" And then he said to the atheist, "I feel like I could have a conversation with you because you're not groveling at my feet all the time. Be at peace." And he sent him to heaven or whatever. But that it's like so different from what's
Mm.
talked about in the Bible. It's kind of weird.
There are a lot of erroneous ideas about what the Bible says that just come from not really looking at it,
Like
like not
skimming
taking it.
over it and then
Yeah,
taking it out of context.
I mean, I don't know if you've heard the idea that there are 144,000 people going to heaven and that's it.
I've
But
heard that.
they take that verse in Revelation. You know the one I'm talking about, right?
I think so.
The 144,000 standing with
Yeah.
the Lamb on Mount Zion, and they just take it completely out of context, and it becomes this growing fear that just eats at them. And it's like, well, I have to be one of the best 144,000 people in the world.
Yeah, people start thinking, oh, if I
And
don't give everything I own to the church or the
well, and
homeless.
even more fundamentally than that, there's the idea that your own good works will save you.
Right, when it's clearly stated that's not
Yes.
true.
I mean, like Paul talks, Paul goes into the realm of if I understand all things, if I am perfect giving in every way, but if I don't have the love of God in me, it's nothing,
Right.
right? And um, there's there's a righteousness that comes from our own works and what we do, and we can like stand on our own 2 feet and be like, hey, I did these things, I'm a good person, you owe me my life. And there's a righteousness which comes by faith in Jesus Christ, which completely clears our conscience
Yeah.
and removes all guilt and all stain and all um, uncleanliness there. Right.
So,
I mean,
sorry,
the
go ahead.
fact is, it's fine. The fact is, like, I heard it a new way recently that I hadn't really thought about before. If we were completely perfect and could stand on our own 2 feet before God without leaning on Jesus Christ at all, we would still be unprofitable servants, like in the like in Luke. But because Christ was the Son of the Father, because we're found in Christ now, because of His blood for us, we're elevated from that position to be co-heirs with Him of eternal life. And so I mean, Paul, it's better because Paul even talks about glorying in his weaknesses because it means that the power of Christ can rest on him, which brings him to this, I don't want to say higher status, but it just completely um, elevates all the joy he's able to feel and all the beauty and glory of the Lord that he can know because it's not him, but it's Christ in him.
Right. I haven't thought about it that way before. It's pretty interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Paul's writings are really, really deep, I think. I mean, you can look at them and there will be things that just puzzle you for days and days and weeks and months, and then it clicks if you consider it prayerfully.
Right.
Yeah.
You need every single angle, and you still won't get it until you
Yeah.
pray on it.
Mhm. I mean, it's like with Revelation again. I know I've already mentioned Revelation, but so many people come to the book with like logic and history books and rational discussion, and they just completely miss the point of it because it's deliberately vague. Like you read it and it's a book written entirely in symbols. It's very hard to understand because we're intended to take it and read it lovingly because it's the revelation of Jesus Christ. It's the Lamb. It's His person right in front of us.
One thing I don't like about how a lot of people teach Revelations is they'll teach you what they think the meaning is. When Revelations, even a lot of the whole Bible, is
Mhm.
a specific meaning to you and your life experiences. And when people teach you a specific meaning for a vague book, say Revelations, like you were talking about, they want to take the whole book and teach a specific meaning when it's really for you to sit down and read it, pray about it, and you'll get your own understanding of it that'll help in your life.
Mm.
That's my personal thoughts on it.
I
Uh,
mean, I definitely agree that it's that you need to pray about it yourself, and that God works in us in personal ways. Um, I just the one thing I would take issue with is the idea that the truth there is like subjective, that it's different for all of us. Um, and here's the only there's only one reason that I can say I don't believe that, and that's that the book of Revelation is called a prophecy, a foretelling of events that will happen.
right.
And in Second Peter, Peter says no prophecy of the Scripture is of any private interpretation,
Yeah, that's true.
because holy men of God moved as they were
I'm
spake as they were moved by the Holy Ghost.
I'm
So
talking
they're
about the
the
not
personal walk.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I just think that Revelation is um, well, I know that Revelation is something that is beginning to be um,
Visible.
more prevalent, and it's something that we're told will be revealed to us when we need to know in the last times before Christ's coming. I mean, that's what the book of Revelation is all about, right? That's how you get all this eschatology and these purgatory, rapture, end time ideas. Wouldn't you
Yeah,
agree?
yeah.
And I completely agree with what you were saying about humans take their own learning and their own perspective, and they try to push it on other men. And that's the teachings of man and the doctrine of humankind. And it completely falls short of the divine scale of things in the book of Revelation. Right.
Right.
So there's the just as a finishing thought, and then I'll let you go. Um, there James talks about there being a pure wisdom from above, which is all these things. I mean, it's pure, it's gentle, it's full of good fruits, without hypocrisy, all these great things, but it's pure and it's from above, and it gives us, I don't want to use the word revelation again because that's what we've assigned to this book. Really, the book is called the Apocalypse, but really it it enables God to teach us himself by revelation, where something is shown to us suddenly. And that might be a sketchy concept, but it's definitely a scriptural one. And it's, I think, because Revelation is so like shrouded in like this murkiness and these mysteries and all these erroneous doctrines and beliefs, it's the only way to um, treat the book properly, is by prayerfully considering it and letting him teach us.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think I misspoke when I was talking about it because, like you said, there are certain points which are not up for debate, and it said they're not up for debate in the Bible itself. But there are points where it's the you've definitely heard this, the living word, where how do I explain it?
Yes, I have heard it. I mean, the Word was made flesh and dwelt among us. That's John 1, right?
Yeah, I think so.
First John 1.
Where a lot of it is for specific personal experiences,
Yes,
but a
yes,
lot but a lot of times people are going to take that into what other people have told them, when I think the best way to understand it is to remove your personal biases, remove everything you've heard about the Bible, and just read it and
yes.
pray about it so
I
that the specific meaning for what you need in your life is given to you from Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I could not agree more with that statement by itself. Uh,
Now, I definitely need to do better about actually reading the Bible because I haven't done that in a long time. But I don't think that makes me weaker in my faith, and I'm showing it different ways or in different ways in just acts that I do. Where what verse is it? Talking about the fruits of your faith being visible, and just doing something like
Mhm.
that, or
Now, I would, um, so the
God,
Bible teaches that what we do, our good acts, doesn't save us, right?
yeah, it's not going to save you. The
We're
only way
saved
is through
by
Jesus Christ.
grace.
Yeah,
We're saved by grace, and we're saved unto good works. I think that's what you're talking about. I think you're saying, you know, you've been saved, and now because you've been saved, you want your behavior in life to show forth that goodness of Jesus Christ
yes,
um and be a good labor.
you just want it to
Although
show.
yeah. Now there was one verse that came to mind when you said you don't think your faith was decreased by not reading the word, and I just have it here. It's Romans 10:17. So then faith comes by hearing, and hearing by the word of God.
Okay.
So I think, well, actually, we can chuck what I think out the window if we're taking the Bible as an authority. There's no opinion here, right?
Yeah,
Um, that was just something that came to mind. That was like, uh, because
I have
trying to
an
decide what direction I go. Go ahead.
I have an example about my faith.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I went fishing today, and my whole family is we're like huge nature people, and we love animals. But I'm also a person who can kill an animal to eat it. Of course, I don't want to leave any waste because that is a creation by God
Mm-hmm.
given to us for consumption to help our health. But my mom does not like hurting animals, and
Mm-hmm.
she was asking me how I can do it or how I could think about doing it, like because I killed a fish and then I fillet the whole thing. And I told her that this is the way I think about it. It is a blessing from the Lord given to us, one of his creations given to me so that I can provide for my family, the family that I've been blessed with, just providing food for them, like substance, anything. And that's how, even though I love fish and I think they're one of the most beautifully made creations on this earth, that's how I can still cut it up and not feel like sad about it.
Mm-hmm. Well, oh boy, there's a lot of thoughts that come from that. Well, okay. So firstly, I mean, in the Old Testament before Christ's sacrifice, there were so many animals cut up for on the altars for remission of sins, right?
Right.
Like there was one commentator, I don't think even think he was a Christian, but he just said how bloody was the religion of the Jews. And that's because I mean the Bible says without blood there's no atonement. Like when we walk astray from God, there has to be some counterbalance. Like that doesn't just go away even though he still loves us even though we're not respecting him as we should and not walking in his teachings in the way that we should. Or I should say all this in the past tense because now Christ has made his perfect sacrifice once and for all, and there will never have to be any religious rite done ever again to purify a human being, right?
Yeah.
Um, but so that's just that's just a thought that sometimes I'm surprised by. Sometimes I forget how the Bible doesn't sugarcoat anything.
No, it does not.
Like what?
It definitely does not.
Yeah. Like there's some ugly truth about just how much it was necessary, just because of the nature of the problem of sin and how all-encompassing and destructive it was, that we had to kill all these animals, um, for the blood sacrifice that was incomplete, that couldn't even fully clear us. So that's one thought. Secondly, let's see, there was a third which I forgot, but um, Paul was talking about the Mosaic law, the law given by Moses, and in I think in one of the long books like Deuteronomy or Leviticus, that's just a bunch of old rules, right? A bunch of commandments of that law. There was, you don't muzzle the ox while he's tramping out your vineyard. Kind of a weird one, right?
Yeah.
But Paul says, does God care for oxen? No. So he's Paul says he's saying this for our sakes. He's saying when we're in the position of serving him and helping tramp out his field, his vineyard, we're not going to be muzzled. We're not going to be prevented from having our own share and our own satisfaction and nourishment of what he's working on the earth.
Yeah.
So that there's a sense in which humanity is so far above every other creature he's made that the Lord cares for man in a way that he doesn't care for fish or for oxen or for any other type of animal, just because it's incredibly complex. It's miraculous that any fish is living at all. Wouldn't you agree?
Not the fish, no. But yeah, I agree.
It just doesn't show his image in the same way.
Right.
And I remember the third thought, and that's Jesus saying that um, there's not a sparrow that falls to the ground that's not numbered by your Father. Are you not much more valuable than the sparrows? So it's that same concept again of humanity being made in the image of God, and being given authority over creation, like we saw in Genesis, whatever, when he just gives all this new creation to man and gives man commandments and charge over it. But even this sparrow, which is it's like almost esteemed as a light thing, as a small thing in God's eyes, matters to him, and he does note and count and care when it dies and falls to the ground. So I think, because I'm going really, really large and theological and all-encompassing here, but I think because Genesis teaches us that death is an abnormal thing, it was not intended to happen in God's creation. I mean, he knew it would. Known unto God are all his works from the beginning. But because it's this anomaly almost that's eating at his creation, he grieves deeply for every bit of death that's in his creation, whether it be a fish. Not that anybody is wrong to kill a fish for food, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying in any way that's something he would have. I'm not saying in any way that's something the Lord would have an issue with. Like, you're right. He made this so that we could have sustenance. But because anything has to die at all, that fact is saddening for the Father, which I think is so touching and so humanizing of this being who's otherwise just this omniscient, faraway God whom we can't touch or know, right?
Yeah.
But he's personal on the level that we are made like him. He cares about us. He makes us more like him through he makes us more like his son through the working of his spirit in us. And so while he's raising us up to eternal life, there's still this deep knowledge because he's all knowing. This deep set grieving that he has in his heart because any of his creation has to die. Because a single plant cell eventually just kicks the bucket. So I just think that's so incredible.
Definitely. I don't have anything to add on to that, really.
I needed to take a swig of water, bro.
I ran out of water a while ago. So, I actually want to change subject. Oh my. I need water. Apparently.
Here, I'll give you some.
Thank you.
Just taps on your window.
Oh my. That would be pretty creepy since I'm not even in a room with windows.
Oh,
Yeah, just make a window and tap on it. I wouldn't notice that, definitely.
chainsaw.
I actually want to change the subject to video games because obviously, we both met from a video game, and now we've talked for what is it, like 3 years now?
Yeah,
It's
more, I think.
really, oh yeah, that's true. It's pretty
I mean, we haven't
crazy.
really talked that much for the last year, so I don't blame you for saying three.
We met like 4 years ago and then talked for about 3 years.
Yeah.
But it's pretty crazy to think that maybe 50, okay, not maybe, 50 years ago, you couldn't do this. Like, if you wanted to have a friendship with someone, you know, Florida to Carolina, you would have to write letters or something, or fly over there, drive over there. But now you can just log in and talk to them.
Yeah.
And there's definitely a lot of good and a lot of bad that can come with that. But you've seen it create amazing friendships. People have met online and then they get married through games and everything. Through like YouTube, what was it? YouTube messages, I think I've seen that happen. It's just a crazy age we're living in, though. But I wanted to ask, as like a homeschooler or a follower of Christ, how do you feel that being online is different than if you were like a public schooler or someone who doesn't follow the Lord?
Uh, you mean because there's four possibilities here. I can be online as a follower of the Lord. I can be online without him. I can be in public school with him, and I can be in public school without him. Is that what you're asking me to just consider those four?
Pretty much.
Hmm. Let me chew on my ruler here.
A true homeschooler.
Yeah, really.
No,
Well,
but
I can't say exactly what being in public school would be like because I'm not, but I know enough about it to know that it's an absolute cesspool, public schools, I think.
yeah,
And I'm very thankful that I'm homeschooled just because such a it's such a nihilistic place, right? Like there's so much hopelessness in a public school where you're all kind of sort of coming of age with a bunch of testosterone and estrogen and little to no authority in your lives. It's
exactly.
just kind of a recipe for disaster. So if I were in public school without the Lord, I would just be like, I don't know, what's the most
Just
overpowering Walgreens prescription I could find? I'd be overdosing on that right now. Um, Public school with the Lord, I don't know how that would change. I don't know.
somebody,
I don't know how that would have changed my walk with Him, going to school every day.
it would definitely be hard. I can tell you that.
I'm sure it would.
What am I really good friends. His older brother, sorry, his whole family is with the Lord. They follow him and they're very religious. So his older brother was in public school, and I guess his teacher knew that he was Christian and he didn't like that or something, because he gave him an assignment to find 2 or 3 reasons why God doesn't exist, or you get an F in my class.
That's what I mean about the political teaching, about everything being meant to brainwash in a way.
Yeah,
Because most of us don't think. We just take what we're given as fact if we don't see any counter evidence.
exactly.
Like how many of us when when our teacher writes something on the board go why or how? How many of us instantly raise our hand and like ask questions to see if that really is the truth or if the truth kind of bears our inspection?
Exactly.
We
Because
don't.
you're not.
Like we're not, and I think that's partly because we as humans just kind of pride ourselves on being deep thinkers when really only a few of our race ever have been these like deep philosophers like Plato, like etc. I don't have time to name them all. I don't want to name them all. But they've kind of shaped our way of thinking, and they give us this unreasonable faith in human powers of discernment.
Yeah,
When the fact is, not only do most of us not have that much intelligence, but even if we did, it wouldn't help us. It would just because our internal compass is off without God. If we take the Bible at its word, that is. And some people, I mean, I'm sure some people, if they're listening to this podcast, don't. But I don't even want to get into the debate of that because I feel like belief that God doesn't exist just breaks down at a certain point.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
You can't look at creation like straight up without any of these presuppositions and these like without being focused on yourself and say, yeah, this just erupted from nothingness. Reason came from lack of reason. Order came from chaos. Something came from nothing. That's not how arguments work.
So one of
And
the things I always ask, I haven't
mhm,
really gotten an answer to it, is if the Big Bang did happen and it started because of particles from whatever, where did that come from? Because supposedly there was absolutely nothing before us.
mhm. Well, here's what I always say about Big Bang and the theory of evolution. You can it's a belief. You have to believe it. And the reason one of the reasons for that is it's not scientific. And what I mean something very specific by that. I mean that science is concerned with testing things to see if they're true. That's where you get the scientific method. That's you make a hypothesis, you test it, test it again, and you confirm if it's true.
Yeah.
And then you deal with that what's right now, right here in front of us at this time that we can test and examine and see and find out. And all this speculation about what happened before we could test anything, what happened before the universe began is not scientific. So I think in that sense, science has been turned, science in heavy quotation marks, because it's not really science, like I just said, has been turned into this religion. And I'm
Right.
calling it a religion because it takes faith to believe in it.
There is
And
literally
because
a scientific religion. Let me look it up.
I I know what you're talking about. Like there's like the Christian science thing. What I mean is a religion just because it's something we've invented to make us feel better. I don't even I wouldn't classify the person of Jesus Christ as a religion. Christianity is a common religion that makes the Bible into a set of rules we follow so that if we have good works, we're saved.
Right.
But that's not what the Bible teaches. So that's why I want to be careful in clarifying what I mean whenever I say a word like religion or science, because these are things that are thrown, these are terms that are thrown about, but if you ask people what they mean by science or what they mean by religion, you find that they don't have reasons for thinking what they do. If you ask someone whether science is if you ask someone what science is, they'll probably give you the scientific method, right? Like
Right.
I think that's something most of us are aware of. But if you ask whether the theory of evolution is scientific, they'll also say yes. So you can kind of like point out this inconsistency to them, and it's like they're speechless. They never thought, they never had reasons for thinking what they do. And it's such a common problem. It's such a common thing that happened. I mean, it's happened to all of us. I mean, like including me and you,
Right.
have just gobbled up whatever someone's put in front of us. I mean, you said part of the reason you're Christian is because you were raised that way.
Yeah. That's how it
And
starts for a lot of people.
as you like looked at it and like actually gave it a chance, you found out it's the real deal, and there really is life in the Bible and in the Jesus Christ that it teaches, and in the loving Father who made us all that again it teaches. But we as humans and as a society, I think, are just so willing to take whatever's given us and then just kind of search for whatever makes us feel good,
Right.
when that's not truth. I think society and culture is no longer concerned with truth in the same way. Philosophers and the deep thinkers of the ancient world were always really obsessed with what is the truth of reality. And they never got it because the nature, I mean, again, the Bible tells us the nature of things is not reasonable. It's a tragedy. Like, entropy and chaos are just kind of destroying the universe. From, like, if we just look at things from purely scientific lens and say, okay, this is what we know, everything is slowly, very, very, very slowly falling apart. And there's something holding it together. We don't know what that something is, by the way. The universe is still holding together for reasons that probably shouldn't be. Is from what the research I've seen, I don't, I'm not an expert there, but there's no way to logically predict what's going to happen tomorrow.
Yeah, pretty much.
The universe does not follow the order and harmony that it was clearly created in mind of. I mean, everything's kind of ordered and natural. If you look at classifications of flowers, but if you look at like cars on the street, you have no clue who's going to just careen into the next Dunkin' Donuts and spit out a bunch of vodka out of his mouth and just fall over, and who's going to like have his suit and tie on going to the gym to train. You can't, the basis of things is not reasonable. It's not logical.
So I found the science thing I was talking about in it, Scientology.
Hang on one second. All right, so Scientology.
Yeah. Okay, so Scientology is a set of beliefs and practices invented by American author L. Ron Hubbard and is associated and an associated movement. It has been variously defined as a cult, business, or a new religion movement. Also, I just want to point out, I think this is funny.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was looking it up, one of the people also asked for Google is, who is the best religion? I love it. Not what is the best religion, who.
Uh-huh.
which
Yeah, Google common searches are some of the most depressing things in a way.
I think this is wrong actually, because when I was in it just lists off like the most followed. But when I was in
Are you
world
talking about
religions,
definitions of Scientology?
no. When I was in world religions, we learned about the most popular religion, and I believe it was Islam, but I don't remember.
Pretty sure it's Christianity by like a really large amount.
Yeah, it's listed with
Which is why I
Christianity
said,
at 2.3 billion, Islam is at 1.9. But I thought
yeah.
that we learned that Islam was either gaining really fast or was already above Christianity.
Well, this is in a sense what I meant when I said we've made the teachings of the Bible into a religion that just makes us feel good. Because there are 2.3 billion people who profess to be Christians, and I think it's pretty clear. I don't think anybody's going to argue with me that, not every one of those 2.3 billion people have really looked at Christ, trusted him for who he is, and accepted him into their lives.
Right.
And that's what the Bible, that's not, honestly not even what the Bible tells us we need to do to be a follower of Christ. There are, again, levels, and I say this so unofficially. Like, believe me, the whole, like, have you heard of Mormonism? How there are these,
Yes.
like, different layers of heaven? Okay,
Studied
just
that
cast
in
that idea out the window because that's not what I mean at all.
yeah, I know what you mean.
I'm, I mean, well, what Christ really says is, him that wants to be my disciple, let him forsake all and follow me, right?
Yeah.
So, but Acts 16, I think, was the chapter. The centurion is asking Paul, sirs, what must be do to be saved? And Paul just says, believe on the name of the Lord Jesus Christ and you'll be saved. So that's what you need to do to be saved. But that involves a personal identification with Christ and a certain taking him at his word, capital W, I guess, uh, and accepting him into our lives that I don't think 2.3 billion people have done.
Right.
So you're left with this pseudo Christ, this pseudo teachings of Jesus that are, if you think about it, the most effective way for the devil to lead people who are seeking Christ away from him. Because if they think they've already like found him and it's really just this shallow, we come to church, we sing a hymn, we give a prayer and we feel good about ourselves, then they're certainly not going to check that route of things again, that alleyway, unless they're really desperate,
Yeah.
right?
I
So
I knew this pastor who was an awesome pastor, and we went to this camp where at the time I was one of the leaders who helped all the kids. And he was teaching our Bible class one day, and he told us a story. And the story he was talking about was about his life. He was talking about how he was what he calls a weekday, or yeah, a weekend Christian, because he would go to church, he could memorize verses, and all the people there would be like, "Whoa, you're so strong in your faith," because he could repeat the stuff. But on the weekdays, he would do all sorts of like all this stuff that is definitely not Christian, until in his life he realized that after some people told him, "We don't want to hang out with you anymore, you've got like such a bad personality," or whatever. And he started looking at everything and he's like, "Wow, this is not what being a Christian is like at all." And I think
Mhm.
a lot of people are like that.
Yes, I fear that most of the people in churches today are not truly saved.
Right. And the Bible definitely warns about that because when the Antichrist comes, all of those people are going to follow him.
Yeah, and there is a real sense in which Antichrist will be manifested, but um, the letters of John say that at that time, and the spirit of Antichrist had already come, and there was already that deception that said, no, he didn't come in the flesh, and you're not really saved because of his blood. So I would say that's at work all around us
Oh,
right
yeah.
now.
Definitely is.
But we know that we have a greater power with us, and there's a greater spirit, a Holy Spirit that energizes us to resist that in our personal lives.
Hmm. With my life, there is a lot of awful and terrible things that have happened, even though I'm only 19. And I'm not saying like I've been robbed at gunpoint. Obviously, that's a terrible thing, but it's in a different
Hmm.
way that awful things have happened. And I know without the Lord in my life, I probably would have killed myself by now. But there's always just that thing. What is there to be afraid of when the Lord is on your side? And it's just
Exactly.
always been there in my mind. And I think there's a point in everyone's life who's a follower where they start to lose that faith and it gets really confusing. It's like, why God? Why did you let this happen? Because something happens, you lose a loved one, whatever, and it
Hmm.
just starts sitting in your mind. Why did you let this happen, God? And a lot of people fall for that trap from the devil, and sadly, they don't make it out of it. But I know, for me personally, when that started to happen, it was maybe a year or two of that, of those questions and questions, just constantly, until I realized, why am I afraid of this? Why am I afraid of a big mad god in the sky when that's not him? And
Hmm.
that's the point where I said, I'm done listening to your lies. And I think I would have to say my faith got a lot stronger after that. Because, like I said, what is there to be afraid of when the Lord is on your side?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, go ahead.
Uh, well, I mean, I've definitely considered suicide as well. I mean, there's just a way that you kind of wallow in your own misery when you don't have enlightenment, to use a term that is very often used in a different way.
Yeah.
But it also just, I mean, the biblical example there is, of course, Job. I mean, terrible things happened to him, but we see that it's not because he was unrighteous and God was angry with him. He was very righteous and God was very pleased with him, which is why the Lord allowed the devil to get at him. It's like the Lord doesn't allow the child who's weak in faith to be just completely assaulted by the devil because he knows he can't take it. You know,
Right.
we're we're told that we're never tempted beyond that which we're able to withstand
Oh, I
as
actually
long as
wanted
we
to talk
trust in
about this.
Jesus. Hmm?
I actually wanted to talk about this point next, so it's nice.
Yeah, I mean, and so we do. It's easy to think and to say that we suffer because we did wrong
Yeah.
or we suffer because God's mad at us. it's actually often very much the opposite. There's a purification that takes place there when we suffer because we did right and we suffer because we love him. And I mean, I just remember, I mean, we know that the reason Job suffered is because God and Satan just went to war over his soul, basically. And the book starts with Job in this place where he's kind of esteemed throughout the land as this great righteous man, and the Lord's happy with him, and his family's happy with him, and he's got all this wealth and cattle, and when Satan comes to God, God praises Job, and Satan's like, oh well, he loves you because you give him all this great stuff. So let me just take away his stuff, and you'll see you're kind of infatuated with this idea that he loves you because of who you are. No, no, no. You are mistaken, God. Let me just prove that point to you real quick. And so after Job's like whole family, except for his wife, I think, just basically falls dead in an instant, and all his buildings fall over, and like enemies come and kill all his cattle and stuff. And he responds in faith, and he says, like, even while his wife and those around him are kind of despising him and saying like, curse God and die. That is literally the words of his wife. His wife just said, why do you still withhold your integrity? Just curse God and die, and it will be better for you. But he withheld himself, and he didn't speak evil against God, and he trusted God. And so the next time when Satan goes to God again, and God says for the second time, have you considered my servant Job? There's none like him in all the earth, and praises him again. There's like two more sentences, glowing praise for Job from God's own mouth. That happened because of the suffering, because of Job's response to suffering. So it's like, I think it matters a lot to God when we trust him in that way.
Yes, definitely.
When every circumstance in our life tells us or tries to tell us that he will not deliver on his promise and that there is no God or God isn't loving, which is, in my opinion, a lot easier to believe than there is no God. But that's beside the point. He wants people who will believe him just because he said it. The only thing in Job's life that had any indication that God was going to reward him or love him at all was God's own word. Every circumstance, every feeling, every experience he had pointed him in the other way. But he was brought to that place in his faith and in his walk where all that he needed was for God to say it, and he would cling to that word with all his might, and with some divine might added, right? Because we receive help from God, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. I actually disagree with the thought that God will not give you more than you can handle, because he wants you to yearn for a relationship with him. And when you get more than you can handle, what else is there to do besides go to God in prayer and through the Bible and reach out and ask for his help?
Mm-hmm.
And this is said in the Bible by what is it? I am really out of practice with verses. But basically, he wants you to, when you're having problems, give it up to him, give up your worries and doubts to the Lord so that you can be helped.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm really glad you said that. Firstly, because you're absolutely right, but secondly, because that wasn't my thought. That was a verse. Now,
Yeah.
that verse was said to believers, to people who did trust in Christ. Um, think it was James, and it was, you will not be tempted above that which you are able to withstand. And the implication, because he's talking to the church and to a body of believers, is that with Christ's help and because you trust in faith and not in your own ability to like resist temptation, then because that's your strength, you will not be tempted beyond what you're able to withstand in
Right.
Christ. Right. So, and oh, there are so many places to go, but it is so hard to resist temptation in this day and age.
It
I'm sure you know what I'm
is.
talking about.
Yeah, I do.
Especially now, I'm not saying that young women have it any easier, but I'm saying that especially in this matter, for young men, it's just so easy to pick up any technological device and kind of get instant gratification,
Oh yeah, totally.
uh, and
And
to
like
look at whatever you want, kind of.
every way imaginable, your phone can give you instant gratification, and that is
Hmm.
a very dangerous weapon that can be used by anybody.
And like it, I'm not saying God doesn't like technology or God doesn't like phones, but these are devices created by man and used by man for his own pleasure.
Right.
So it makes things more difficult than I think they were in the past. Just in this matter, at least.
Yeah.
Um, so it really becomes a war. It really becomes a battle, I think.
It does. I want to talk about sports actually. Did you play any sports um growing up?
Well, a lot. All right. So when I was, I have to get out of my melancholy mood. Okay.
Oh yeah,
um,
just
I
boom.
don't. I don't even mean melancholy. I just mean like pensive, thoughtful, whatever. I
Yeah, I
can
know
hear
what
it
you
in
mean.
my voice. I'm just like, well, and I'm taking it way too seriously.
I am a very deep thinker. You must respect me.
Exactly.
Oh my.
Okay, so when I was really young, I played soccer. I wasn't bad. I was like the best juggler on my team.
Oh, I could
Coach's
never
pet, by
juggle.
the way.
I also
Um,
never practiced.
then we made a choice, my family, between that and taekwondo. And so I started
Really?
doing taekwondo at this school that was like one step removed from the organization in Korea that literally decides how taekwondo is done. So it's like this really elite, really welcoming but high standard school,
That's
and
really
I've been
cool.
doing taekwondo there for like 8 years. Um, and then more recently, I've kind of laid that aside. I began taking up something called tricking. Have you ever heard of that?
I don't believe so.
Martial arts tricking. So it's like taekwondo and martial arts kicks with acrobatic flips in it.
Oh,
Um,
that's pretty cool.
yeah. So when I started doing that, it was in concordance with the taekwondo. It was at the same time. But when
Okay.
COVID happened,
Everything
I
shut down.
wasn't able to go to my taekwondo school. So now that everything's started back up, I've been, because I like tricking so much more than taekwondo, and because I really love to do it, I've been focusing on that as kind of my hobby while I spend the rest of my time on jobs and school and stuff.
Okay.
So every time that I've tried to plug my Instagram, that's just shameless egoism. I've been wanting you to see my cool flips. Um, what about you?
So when I was younger, um, this was at the Y. I started from about 4 years old playing soccer, and then that's all I just soccer and anything else that I would play with friends. But one year I took soccer and flag football. Ended up dropping flag football after that year and just playing soccer until like 2015 because I had to stop for medical reasons. And unfortunately, I had to stop like everything. I was taking a hip hop class and that had to stop as well. And
You told me about that. I remember.
yeah. What else was there? Yeah, it was basically just that and then any other sport that I would play with friends in the neighborhood or at parties, which was usually football. Baseball had always interested me, but not enough to try it.
Hmm.
But martial arts is something I've wanted to try for maybe 5 years now because the concept of it just interests me, and I
Yeah.
want to see if it's fun to do.
I think environment is very much a big part of it because you can have elitist schools in the sense of we want to
Yeah,
perform our forms really well, we want to do our sport at a high level, and you can have places that just kind of want to. It's just a bunch of black belts trying to kick the snot out of you to like prove a point.
yeah, pretty
And
much.
then there's a third category, which is actually the most common, which is we just pay you to come here and go through the motions, or you just you pay us, you come here and go through the motions, and we just give you a belt. We're belt factories.
Let's go.
Yeah. So I think it's important to get the right school and the right environment, and if that's the case, it is very fun to do.
Yeah,
Uh, and I mean, it's how I got into tricking. So tricking's really just what's really fun to do for me. So because there's that element even in the sports it's a pretty recent sport. It's been around for like 25 years or something. It's
okay.
not
So
it's kind
pretty
of
young
yeah,
sport.
it's been getting a lot more attention recently, but historically it's been fairly underground and it's been fairly rooted in martial arts. It began when like these taekwondo practitioners would just do flips at like their demonstrations just to like get their competitions just kind of to show off
Yeah,
and these kicks. And it began to grow into something more as people from parkour, breakdancing, and tumbling just kind of brought their respective skills into the mix. So it's
man,
kind of an amalgam of different sports and motions that's very much about self-expression.
I really wanted to get into parkour, but I had a
Uh-huh.
doctor tell me that he said no, you cannot do parkour. I don't remember the exact reason why,
Here's
but
I if unless it's something like your heart rate can't go up too high because of running, then I'm gonna call BS on that because a lot of people have an idea from parkour. I I don't personally practice parkour, but the gym that I practice tricking at is mostly a parkour gym, and
yeah,
I talk to a lot of parkour instructors. So the fact is, parkour is about going from point A to point B really quickly.
yeah,
It's not about like running jumps and flips that a lot of people see on the internet and gets clickbaited as parkour and people think is parkour.
yeah. Because a lot of it's just like, well, look at this guy climbing the wall or something,
Mhm.
or whoa, look at this guy jumping on a small pipe.
And it's not that that's unimpressive.
It's just
It's
not the
just not the
full
essential
parkour.
nature of parkour.
Yeah.
I mean, it definitely is parkour, but you know.
So maybe 2008, I want to say. Myself and my dad saw a video, probably fake to be honest, thinking about it now, but it was this robber who knew parkour, and the police were chasing him. He just started climbing up a stairwell using parkour really quickly. Obviously, at
Sure,
the
it's just
time,
a normal parkour practitioner because security guards usually kind of hate them.
yeah.
But you didn't hear that from me.
All those videos of guys running away from the police and clickbaiting it.
Yeah, with for some reason multiple cameramen around them. Isn't that crazy?
I feel bad for.
Isn't it great to have loyal friends who video you while you're running from the police?
Yep.
Boy, oh boy, I'm glad there are friends like that in the world.
I feel bad for like actual policemen who get these kids that try to do that when really they're just trying to do their job. They're getting
Yeah.
like harassed by the youths.
You sound old, but
I
you're
feel
right.
old saying that.
You're sad. Okay, but you are correct. Like I yeah, I don't really want to get into this because we're steering towards political topics that should not be broached by anyone with senses. But people hate the police for like no reason, bro. Like
I'd
I
say it
get
has
that
to.
there are
It
I get
depends
that there are
from area to area.
officers. Okay, there are two sides to the issue. There's the fact that the law enforcement system and way of doing things just allows for like abusers and criminals to just be police officers.
Yep.
And there's no authority for them and there's no way to like report that reliably. But also people just dislike authority.
Uh-huh.
And when that takes the form of the police, they just kind of spit on them.
Because it's
As in
this big
civilians on the
authoritative
police.
figure and
Yeah.
what's
I
the
mean,
word? Whatever.
enforcement
Organization.
organization, yeah.
It's somewhere for people to like funnel all of their hate to for
Yeah.
authority
But like
when a
imagine
lot
if
of
we
them
didn't
don't
have
even
the
deserve it.
police. Imagine if we didn't have the police.
Exactly.
Like,
People don't think about that.
well, it's just in our nature as humans to dislike authority and to want to govern ourselves and rule ourselves.
Yeah.
But authority is not a bad thing in and of itself. It's bad if the person at the top is flawed. So in other words, it's bad in every kind of worldview that believes anything other than a loving God is at the top of the chain, right?
Yeah.
Because if it's like Joe Biden at the top of the authority pyramid, I'm sorry, but I don't think there are a ton of people who want to like this. I'm not even trying to make this political. It's just no matter who's at the top of the pyramid, most people in the world aren't going to agree with his personal set of beliefs.
Right. You saw
Right?
that
So if
with
he just enforces that, like if that's the thing, if that's the number one person and set of beliefs that shapes your world, it's natural to kind of want to resist that.
yeah.
And also, we're just hard-hearted creatures who don't give a damn about anyone other than ourselves. But sorry for cursing, but
I
like,
don't care.
okay,
Honestly,
we
cursing isn't a big.
we
Sorry, go ahead.
yeah. Well, just to quickly wrap up my thought, authority is something that's kind of by definition set up by God, and it's supposed to lead straight to Him. If if everybody who was called to be faithful were faithful, believe me, I'm not saying there would be a smooth and creamy ride through reality, and I'm not saying that if the church had done its job, everybody would be Christian. That's not a biblical belief. But there are ways in which I think like humans have failed to answer the calling God has put on their lives, so the chain of command has just entirely disintegrated into this thing that no one can trust in properly, and yet everybody does.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
You see that with Biden now. You saw that with Trump. You saw it with Obama. Everyone just wants to hate the authority, unless they're being like spoon-fed
Exactly
dopamine.
what they want. Yeah, like paychecks. I mean, how much money has Biden given us, like individual families? I don't even know where he got that money from. Probably taxpayers. But like, okay, that's I said much earlier that like money has to come from somewhere, right? Like, clear. I don't know.
It came from trickle-down economics.
Oh yeah.
Clearly. So, I wanted to say something about the cursing.
Hmm.
I honestly don't care if somebody curses, if it's used in a, for lack of better words that I can think of, a tasteful manner. Like if you're,
Like as emphasis instead of like cussing someone out.
yeah, because if every other word in your sentence is a curse word, that's not really okay. And if you go into a public park and you start cursing, shouting swears, that's not okay. But if you just use it to emphasize something or use it like every once in a while, it's fine, to be honest.
Hmm.
I feel like people
Yeah.
are in a camp, a lot of people are in a camp of either cursing is the end of the world or cursing is just a normal word
Cursing. Uh-huh.
to use
Yeah.
all the time.
Hmm.
That's about it for the
I'd say that's accurate for the most part.
obviously there are some things that just shouldn't be said ever, but that's something else. That's different.
Yeah, we kind of throw our words around carelessly,
Yeah.
but they matter. They have power and they have impact. And I think a lot of the time we just needlessly take these normal, kind of correct, orderly, pure concepts and just describe them in like vulgar ways, witty ways sometimes, but like just needlessly filthy use of language,
Yeah,
and it shapes the way we see the world.
I agree with that. There was there was one other thing I wanted to talk about and I can't remember what it was. Ah, yeah, I don't remember what it was.
Hmm. Well, when you remember it, just call me on for another episode.
Alright, so I guess that is going to be the end of the episode. Thank you for watching. I did an outro last time, but I don't remember what it was. I know it was something in Spanish.
What's the podcast called again? Quick,
Variety
let
of
me
life.
scroll up to the message. Variety of Life.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. Thanks
Oh
for
my.
listening to Variety of Life. This is Charlie Minecraft Man and Pescado. We will be tuning out.
Oh my.
Goodbye.
Adios, amigo.